Trump is a landlord. He sees the world as a landlord. He represents the landlord class, the people whose wealth is tied up in land and minerals and that's, the landlord class is the class that most folks face every day in their lives because they have to rent apartments from those people. So I think we need a different kind of movement that's going to confront capital in all of its forms: financial, industrial, merchant, and landlord. The labor movement can do some of that, but it needs allies. And maybe being in a tough position will encourage the labor movement to find more allies.
A number of people have begun to edge towards the notion that capitalism, or at least American capitalism, is in some broad sense in decline. In other words, of course, there's the high techs in California and so on who roaring ahead, but decline always had elements within it of upward movement. It's never all one direction. But if you look around at the suicide rate, the opioid catastrophe, the inequality that seems on a perpetual rush to get worse, you begin to get a sense of a system that is falling apart, that can't survive. And it may be that the center has moved. Instead of being in North America and Western Europe and Japan, it's moved over to China and India and Brazil and those. How do you feel about the very phrase capitalism in decline? Is that meaningful?
Well, I think in one way, in an ideological way, it's very meaningful. In other words, the fact that most people, the average of people under 35, prefer socialism to capitalism. Now, it's not clear people know what they mean when they say that, but just the fact that they would say that
is amazing.
The politicians in the Democratic Party who have to now say, oh no, I'm a capitalist. Of course, they're not capitalists, but the notion that they need to say that means that there is an ideological crisis. There's no question about it. And amongst young people, I think the idea that capitalism failed is just common sense. I mean, they've grown up with 2008. They've grown up with student debt. They've grown up with deindustrialization. So this is just a fact on the ground. The question now is, where do you go? And that's why some of the social movements that have so far been more electoral than economic, but nonetheless create some hope. I mean, the idea that you can say I'm a democratic socialist and get 14 million votes for president in 2016 is darn impressive.
Right.
So on the ideological front, I think there's no question that things have changed. On the more purely economic front, capitalism has always progressed by destroying what exists, right? We know that. And so you have a country in which you have both Detroit and San Francisco at the same time, a place that's almost too successful and it can't live with that success, and another place that's became a complete disaster that, again, the only way to go is up. So I would be a little careful about saying capitalism writ large is in decline. The other thing that happened as a result of the 2008 crisis is the Fed acted to bail out the whole world. Yeah. So now the dollar is more firmly in place as the currency of choice than it has ever been. So, when we talk about unevenness, sometimes that's a little bit vague. It sounds like you don't really want to say what you mean. But I think that American capitalism is in decline on the one hand, but extraordinarily successful on the other in different sectors in different regions.